Howdy y'all, it's Kentucky Ranger here with a quick video on what turned into a very long drawn out process is how to replace the idler, or not the idler, the tensioner pulley on 2015 Subaru Outback with a 3.6. What was supposed to be about a 20-minute job turned into a 2-day fiasco, and the reason is because the part number, I use Advance Auto here in my little town, and but Rock Auto, a very popular online parts store, has the exact same part, and it's wrong. It's the wrong part for the 2015 3.6. The pulley it's too wide. Or not too wide, I'm sorry. It's diameter, circumference, whatever you want to call it. It's too big. I test fitted it, and it almost fit, but it bumps up against a piece on the front of the engine, so it doesn't work. I had to take it back. Thank God the guy at Advance Auto, he was really friendly. He went through probably 20 different pulleys, trying to find one that would match the one that I have, the one that came off the engine. But anyhow, the bad part number, it's Dayco. The part number is 89148. But the good part is 89052. So I just want to clarify that if you own now mine is like the first run of the 2015 Generation 5. So I don't know down the road. Well, no, that wouldn't have been, because it's still the same part number, and they didn't change the engine, the front of the engine. So I seriously doubt that it would still not work unless they've changed the position of the idler or the tensioner pulley. There is no more idler pulley on the 3.6. They eliminated the power steering pump, so there's no need for an idler pulley, which is good because you're eliminating one more part that can, well, actually two more parts that can go bad. But in doing it, it's the wrong part. So anyhow, I'll get into how to replace this. I was going to make this a real short, sweet video, but I think my intro just cost a little more time. But yeah, we're gonna dig into how to do this. Now, I didn't get all the footage I want because I've got a really bad back, and this took so much to do that I didn't get everything to do on video, but I got enough, and you know, y'all will be able to do it with what I'm showing you. So anyhow, on with the video. The first step you have to do is take off the, I don't know what that's called, the muffling panel or whatever it is. It just pops off. There's two rivets in the back, or posts in the back, and then right in the front here you can see that there's two little pockets that fit into little rubber ends on the front of the engine, and there's the little divots that poke into, there's two rubber grommets on the back that pokes into, and I'll show you how to put that back on once we get to the part where you have to put that back on. A lot of people say that that's unnecessary, but it actually does cut the sound down a lot. Now, the tools you're going to need is a 14 millimeter socket, and next I think it's a 12 millimeter. I don't know, I'm getting ahead of myself here. 12 millimeter socket, and then I found it's best to use an open end wrench, and it's a 12 millimeter too, to loosen the pulley nut so that you can adjust the tensioner. If you don't loosen that nut, you're not going to be able to adjust the tension. In fact, you could run the risk of breaking the tensioner. And you see the nut down there. All you have to do is just a few turns, just loosen it. You don't have to take it apart or take it off. You just loosen it. Okay, that should be loose enough. Okay, now we're gonna cinch down the tensioner to get it to slack. Now this is the 14 millimeter socket that we use for this. And once we get that loose enough, or we'll get the belt loose enough, we're going to take the belt off. Now, there's only one way to replace this. I thought I was going to get away with not having to remove the tensioner, but you have to remove the tensioner. There's not enough room in the back to just take it off, so you have to remove the whole thing. But it's super easy. It's not hard at all. Okay, now once I get the belt off. Okay, once I get the belt off, I went ahead and I bought a new belt because I figured the stress that the old belt had been going through, I might as well replace it. Even though it didn't really look all that bad, I figured it was best to replace it. Alrighty, there's the part number for the belt. And I'll show you here in a second. When you look at the belt, you can see that it's shiny because it hasn't been, what, maybe 2-3 years since I replaced it, so there's not very many miles on that belt, but it's been under a lot of stress where the tensioner pulley, the bearing has been squeaking and squalling, so it's put it on a strain. Not bad, and you can see it's not cracked. There's a little bitty crack. It's still good enough to use for an emergency, and which is what I'm going to do. Always save the old belt for emergencies in case your belt ever breaks out on the road out in the middle of nowhere. You definitely want to keep a spare. Okay, now I'm going to switch to the 12 millimeter socket, and there she be. And I'll show you where these two bolts that hold the tensioner assembly, because you have to take the whole thing off. There's no getting around that. It's not that hard either. Here, I want to show you. It's just two bolts. It bolts right to the front of the engine. You can see them right down there. I'm getting too much light. I'll have to fire the cameraman. Yeah, it's just two bolts that holds that onto the front of the engine. So we're going to remove those and take it off, and I'll go into the detail on how to replace the pulley. It's really not hard. It's a real easy job. In fact, armed with this information, it shouldn't be anything for any of y'all. Now, I don't know, I've looked at other part stores and they have different part numbers and different part manufacturers. I don't know if those are the wrong size either. All I know is Advance Auto and Rock Auto, they have the wrong part number, but I do have the right part number for it. Oh, here's another thing, is when you're replacing the belt, make sure they're the same length. I've done this before, so I already know that. So anyhow, we'll get into replacing or taking this off now. There, I'm trying to show you. Yeah, you want to make sure. Now, the new one's going to be a little shorter than the old one because the old one's been stretched, especially when you have a bearing that's going out on a pulley. It's really going to start stretching that belt out. So anyhow, I'm going to show you how to. Well, I don't have footage actually taking the pull idler or the tensioner off, but anyhow, the next thing you're going to see is how to replace the pulley. All right. Now, once we get this tensioner out of the car, you want to go ahead, take that nut the rest of the way off. That way, oops, pulley comes off. You can see this is a spacer for the pulley. And just remember which way that this part is facing the bracket. So when you pull that out and you pull this out, now you have a bearing, or you have your pulley. Okay, like I was saying, first, this is the part number 89052. That's the one you've got to look for, because the one that they gave me doesn't fit. And the reason it doesn't fit is because the one they gave me was had a larger circumference, where this one's just right about the exact same. It's not as wide, but that doesn't matter. I'll show you here just a second. Okay, like I was saying, it's not as wide as the old one. This is why I'm doing the videos, because it's just kind of a goofed up thing. I think because this is like the first run of the Gen 5s. So I think Subaru, we're just pulling parts off the shelf to slap this together, because there's no idle or pulley on this anymore. They did away with the power steering bracket's still there. Let me take this off here. So if you see, when you put these, you line them up with the bearing, with the alignment, and you can see where the belt is wearing. That fits on that pulley. Even though it's not as wide, it still fits. I'm going to show you. Sorry this video is haphazard, but it's been such a pain to do this. But if you look right here, that's the bracket for the power steering pump. It's not there, or the power steering pump's not there, but the bracket's there. And somewhere down there would have been where they installed the idler pulley. Well, there's no idler pulley. It's just the tensioner pulley. And I think they just sort of, let me hang on here. I think they just sort of pieced it together. So anyhow, you just take this, make sure I'm doing this right. Is that it, or the other way? That's what I get for not watching what I'm doing. Anyhow, you take this, put that back in there, and you put the spacer back on, and you put it back in the bracket, and put the nut back on. Okay, now that's ready to go back. That's going to go back on the car. So I'll show you here in a minute, you going back on the car. Alrighty, I didn't get any footage putting the tensioner back on, but it's pretty simple. You just put back on with the 2 bolts. Tighten it down. Don't over tighten it, but cinch it down good. Now it's just basically putting the belt back on, making sure that it's lined up with all the little slots in the ribs and stuff, and then you just tighten it up. I have a video on how to replace the tensioner belt, so if you want to see that, I'll have a link in the description. But basically, you just tighten the belt down until it's good and snug. You don't want to over tighten the belt. I can't remember, there's a measurement. There's a way that they even have little devices to check your belt tension, but I found you just put firm pressure on the belt. It shouldn't flex more than maybe a 1/4 inch, and then once you get that done, you want to bump the ignition just to get the belt to spin a little bit. See, now this has got a push button start, and I've had a lot of questions on my other video. How can you bump it with push button start? Well, all you have to do is push the button. As soon as the engine starts to turn over, push the button again, and it shuts off. You'll see I got the tension down now. There's another thing very important. Make sure that you tighten the nut for the pulley. Don't forget that. That's a very important step. But once you get the tension, okay, I got ahead of myself. I tightened it down a little bit because it was kind of loose. So I don't know. It's been a fiasco here. I'm trying to remember what I was doing here. Oh, okay. I was just I had the pulley just a little too loose. So I'm tightening it back up. You don't want it real loose because then that throws off the tension. How much tension to put on it. So I'm tightening it back up. And I'm making sure that little key fits into the slot. That's another thing I didn't show you guys. But earlier I have it in a little red circle. The bolt for this is keyed at the end, and it fits into the slot there. So now I'm tightening it down. Snug, you don't want to completely tighten it down. You'll do that after. But once I get it snug, then I'm going to go ahead and finish snugging up the belt. Like I say, well, my arm was in the way. You just put firm tension on the belt, and it shouldn't flex more than about a 1/4 inch. Let's see, about a 1/4 inch, 1/4 to 1/2 inch. That's all you really want it to flex, putting firm pressure on it. I know there are gauges and things like that, but I guess that's the backyard mechanic method. Now that I've got the tension, now I go ahead and tighten and cinch this down real good. If you don't do that, it will eventually work its way out, and I don't even want to think of what would happen. Well, you'd lose the belt. Lord, I don't know what would happen. So you want to make sure you get that tight. Then you remove all your tools and stuff, and then bump the starter. Once you get the starter bumped, you're going to get out and check and make sure the tension's still where you want it, and that the belt's riding where it's supposed to be. Just you want to be safe, because if you skip these steps and you think, I got it, trust me, it might be 1,000 miles down the road, the belt comes off. You'll be like, what happened? So it's really important to check this stuff, and you want to get back in the car and start it and look it over while it's running. Make sure everything's where it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to be doing. Let's see, everything's running really good. And I'll show you some clips. I tried real hard. I got some good pictures, but you can see that belt is riding perfect on that pulley. And here I just wanted to show you. I check for the alignment and make sure everything's going. And you can see I tried to get in here. I wanted video of it so you could see it running, but it's kind of hard to get in there. But you can see it's riding perfect on that pulley. It's kind of hard to see it here. I'll show a picture of it. But you can see right here that it's riding right where it needs to be. So it's not overhanging. I think that other pulley was way wider than it should have been, because I think they just yanked the part and stuck it on there and just said, okay, Bob's your uncle, let's go. Oh Lord, what a mess this thing has been. Anyhow, I appreciate you watching. If you've got any questions, okay, now I'm going to put the top back on. This can be a pain, and it was a pain that day. The key, you put it in, you can see there's little rubber things poking out. I don't know what you call them, but you got to line them up. And sometimes you can get it in the first shot. Other times, like this time, it just took forever. My back was hurting. I kept feeling around trying to figure it out. But once you get it in where it's supposed to be, it just pops right back in. It's really not that big a deal. I'm making it out a bigger deal than it really is. I think I was just frustrated. But anyhow, once you get that pop back in, the job's done and everything's good to go. If you've got any questions or anything, don't hesitate and ask me down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer what I can. It's a real simple, straightforward thing, and it's just because the part didn't fit and everything that was going on. I got a really bad back, so it just made it for a really frustrating 2 days. It's only maybe a 15-minute job. It shouldn't have took 2 days. But anyway, I got it done. See, I'm showing, yeah, I get it, Ranger. You got to line it up. Anyhow, God bless y'all. And there, see, went right on. Anyhow, God bless y'all. Appreciate you watching. Golly, even this video's 20 minutes long. Sorry about that. Anyhow, appreciate you tuning in. And and one thing before I forget, take the old belt, put it back in its package, and because that bearing, I replaced it just as it started making that noise. You want to save those because you could end up getting stranded on the side of the road. So yeah, you don't throw those away. Keep them. Anyhow, God bless. Take care, and I'll see y'all on the next video. Thank you.